She couldn't breathe. The twins, Lucas and Lily, had 93 minutes. years and never seen markers this rare. Nora's blood went cold. She was O negative. She knew because she'd been tested 2 years ago when her mother needed a kidney. The genetic They prepped Nora while Adrian watched through glass. This stranger who was saving his children's lives, looking small and brave and terrified on that table. They let him in before they started. He stood beside her helpless. "I'll never be able to repay this," he said. "I don't want repayment. I just want them to live." "Why do you even know their names?" Nora looked away. "I heard you say them. In the hallway. You were talking to them through the incubator. You said Lily, Lucas, Daddy's here." What she didn't say. "I've known those names for 2 months because you wrote them in a baby journal I photographed for Marcus's report." The procedure started at 11:47 p.m., 13 minutes before the 2-hour deadline. They drilled into her hip bone 3 times. Nora didn't scream, but her face went white, and Adrian watched her bite down on the rubber guards so hard her jaw trembled. He grabbed her hand without thinking. She squeezed back, crushing his fingers. "Tell me about them," she gasped between drilling sessions. "Tell me who they are." "Lily has a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon. Lucas has my mother's nose. They're fighters. They're..." His voice broke. "They're everything." At 12:34 a.m., they finished extraction. At 12:58 a.m., the transfusion began. At 3:42 a.m., both twins stabilized. At 4:15 a.m., Dr. Chen emerged with tears in her eyes. "They're going to make it. Both of them." Nora was still in recovery when they told her. She cried so hard she couldn't breathe. Adrian held her while she shook, this woman who'd saved everything, and felt something shift in his chest he couldn't name. Adrian insisted Nora recover at the penthouse. Her apartment was a 4th-floor walk-up, impossible with her hip injury. "That's inappropriate," she protested. "I worked for you." "Worked. Past tense. You saved my children's lives. You're family now." So Nora moved into a guest suite, and the next 3 weeks existed in suspended reality. Physical therapy, chef-prepared meals, Adrian visiting twice daily to see the twins, And somehow Nora was always there too, once she could walk without wincing. They'd sit in the NICU, each holding a twin, watching these tiny miracles grow stronger. "Can I tell you something?" Nora said one evening, Lucas asleep in her arms. "The morning Vivian went into labor, I heard her on the perfectly. You and Nora share familial DNA, distant fourth or fifth cousins, but present. The markers she needed to match weren't random. They were genetic. You're related. Adrian hung up and immediately called his mother, his birth mother, the one who'd given him up for adoption when he was 3 days old. The conversation was brief, painful, but it confirmed everything. His birth mother had a sister. That sister had a daughter who married a mechanic in Queens. They had a baby girl 27 years ago. Nora was family, blood family, distant but real. The universe hadn't randomly brought a spy into his home. It had brought family he didn't know he had, and she'd been so desperate for money to save her mother, their shared family, that she'd made a terrible choice. Adrian sat in his study for hours, thinking about choices and desperation, and the difference between betrayal and survival. At 3 p.m., he called his head of security. Nora looked up at him through tears. That's a terrible proposal. I'm working with what I've got. We're cousins. Distant ones. Legally fine, I checked. You were my employer. 3 years ago. Different life. I spied on you. And then saved my children's lives. We're keeping score differently now. Nora laughed and cried at the same time. You're insane. Is that a yes? That's a yes. 1 year later, they married in the penthouse. Small ceremony. The twins were ring bearers and threw petals everywhere and no one cared. During the reception, Nora's mother, healthy now, living in a penthouse guest suite, pulled her aside. Your father would be proud. You made terrible choices and then you made brave ones. That's being human, mija. I almost ruined everything. But you didn't. You chose truth over safety. That's love. Later, Adrian found Nora in the nursery watching the twins sleep. What are you thinking? He asked. That 3 years ago I was so desperate I became someone I hated. That I spied on you to survive. That I fell in love with you even though I shouldn't have. That I saved your children and almost lost you. And somehow... She turned to face him. Somehow we're here anyway. Messy, Adrian said. So messy. But real. The realest thing I've ever had. They stood there holding each other while their children, their miracles, their second chances, slept peacefully. Sometimes love doesn't arrive perfectly. Sometimes it arrives broken, desperate, wrapped in terrible choices and impossible odds. Sometimes the person who saves you is the same person who betrayed you. Sometimes family finds you when you need it most, even if you don't know your family yet. Nora did the unthinkable. She saved 2 lives. She confessed her worst sins. She fought for a second chance she didn't deserve and somehow earned it anyway. And in the process, she proved that redemption is real, that people can change, that love can survive betrayal if you're brave enough to choose truth. The twins turned 1 year old last week. They asked why everyone calls Nora Auntie Mama. She told them a simplified truth, that before they were born, when they needed help, she gave them part of herself to keep them alive. That family is complicated but worth fighting for. Adrian still makes her coffee every morning, black with 1 sugar, and every time she tells him it's perfect. But now she makes his too. Equal partners, equal weight, equal love. If this story of betrayal, sacrifice, and impossible redemption touched your heart, like and subscribe for more. See you in the next video.